I'm Larry Cheng, co-founder and managing partner of Volition Capital, and I'm excited to welcome you to another episode of Flash Feedback, where we evaluate real pitch decks from real companies, and I offer you an investor's point of view and the inside perspective. Before I begin, I want to thank you for all of your feedback directly to me about how these episodes have been helpful to you and how you've been sharing them with your friends. We appreciate the support, and one of the requests that I've gotten is to actually talk about a pitch deck that has broader challenges to it. So I'm gonna do that today with a company that has a very memorable pitch deck, SEOMoz from 2011, and a very, very memorable entrepreneur, Rand Fishkin, who literally in my entire career, I think he is probably the most transparent, open entrepreneur that I have ever met. He published everything about the business on his blog. He published the financial performance, all the challenges. He even published his departure on the blog, and he certainly published his pitch deck as well. So I'm excited to cover this with you today, and we'll see where we go. All right, here is the SEOMoz deck. Here's the title slide. What we're going to do today is just run through any slide very quickly, 5, 10, 15 seconds. But if there are a couple of spots where I want to emphasize something, I'll spend a little bit more time. So here we go. All right, starting point, history. Noisy slide, starts in 1981. But it talks about how the company started as a consultancy and now it's a SaaS business in the search engine optimization space, SEO. And generally, I would just say, not a great thing to paint your business as being decades old. It gives a sense to an investor that the company has taken a long time to figure out its momentum. So I'm not sure this is the strongest slide, but it's also a bit noisy. Nonetheless, it does paint the history of the company well. Again, a bit of a noisier slide, but if you look into it, it's showing a strong software growth from 400,000 in 2007 to projected 12.5 million in 2011. That's great. I might have opted to simplify this slide by just giving it a header that is the primary takeaway of the slide. But overall, if you dive into it, strong software growth as they transitioned out of their consulting business. All right, how do we do that? Good question to frame the next section. Lots of inbound marketing sources, email, white papers, SEO, infographics, and so forth. I think every marketer can appreciate that. So what do they do in this midst? They develop software to help you measure and improve understanding of that channel, which is very diffuse. And now we dive into the macroeconomic trends. I'm just going to preview. I think this is actually one of the stronger aspects of the deck. So they're saying here that there's all this spend that is spread across these channels, but behavior is that people are spending tons of time on the internet, so the internet deserves more spend. That's kind of the point of this slide. I actually think that point could have been made more clearly, but I think it's a good solid point overall to set up the macro section. Again, here's probably one of the strongest slides in the deck, which is here they're saying organic traffic drives 90% plus of your traffic, but it garners a very small amount of spend. Yet all the money is chasing paid traffic, which drives less than 10% of your traffic. So what they're saying is this is logically inconsistent, that billions of spend are about to move to organic traffic. They're at the front end of that. So they're sitting at the front end of a significant secular growth market. And I think that this is one of the strongest aspects of the deck. And then everyone wants data. This is probably a bit of a throwaway slide in my estimation, but they're saying their software platform helps to drive data understanding and efficiency. All right into value prop. What's the problem they're here to solve? All of these different channels of organic traffic are hard to understand, hard to measure, hard to prioritize. And then a marketer's challenge is, lots of tools they're working with, and therefore these guys SEOMoz presumably organizes that. And I don't love these sort of meta layer businesses because you're always at risk of some of the underlying tools that you're using just becoming better and addressing some of the meta value prop. But I think a lot of marketers can identify with this. And specifically, they're driving that the pain point is sort of optimizing these channels, understanding what the ROI is, and so forth. So driving home the pain point and value prop. Here's the target market. I think this is actually turns out to be one of the stronger sections, but I think it starts out a little bit noisy again. Here, they're trying to say they have all of these different target customers, but it's presented in a very noisy way that almost makes it feel like there isn't a target customer. So there's a slide coming that I think is much better, but this one makes it seem very diffuse. They're saying here their target market is the intersection of companies that very much value organic traffic, that also have competency to manage it. Here's one of the stronger slides, again, of the entire deck, which is they're defining their customer by title. And I think that's a great way to define it. Half of customers or more are directors of marketing, SEO specialists. Another third or so are SEO consultants. And what this does is when you can define your customer very clearly, it makes the investor believe, A, that you know who your customer is, B, you know how to target them. But there's this added benefit of me thinking, well, there are SEO specialists at millions of companies. So the market is also broad, and it's a huge market, which when you tie back to the macro trends, it's a huge market that's where SEO spend and organic traffic spend is going to grow. So I think this slide is sort of one of the anchors as well of the deck. All right, where are we today? This is back in 2011, obviously. Sort of strong numbers, a strong number of pro subscribers, strong revenue, growth, and so forth. I think the one data point that causes more concern on this slide and kind of outweighs everything else is that it's a 9-month implied customer life. I would not have left that point out there on an island unaddressed because everything else is strong, but that's very troubling from an investor perspective, because even if you're growing today, if you only have a 9-month customer life, that growth will ultimately taper out. So I think that could have probably been addressed or taken out. Second slide talks about tremendous traffic, strong subscriber base and so forth, and strong conversion rates. Again, all sort of good metrics. All right, plan specifics around their investment round, raising 20 to 25 million, some founder liquidity and growth capital. I think that's laid out clearly. This is an interesting section. Normally you don't see a business risk section in these types of decks, and it's going to be about 4 slides long. This gets to Rand Fishkin's transparency MO. You'll see it says business risks, that Google integrates more functionality, that Facebook as a closed web, a closed ecosystem becomes hard to work with. Just the different shifts in marketing that they don't adapt to, and then that they screw up and their reputation suffers. 4 or 5 slides in a pitch deck to risks, I think, is probably too much, but it is an example of Rand's sort of ultimate transparency. So probably a little bit too much waiting here. All right, use of funds. I'm going to just say one of the issues of this section is I like that they lay it out, but it's almost too many uses, as you'll see. Expand audience, expand product. 6, 7, 8 different releases and product roadmap and so forth. So that's fine, but then let's layer on growth in the team across product engineering, marketing, operations, customer success, and retention team, growth in sales and marketing investments, growth in technology investments, growth in product investments, and potential acquisitions. It's just too much. And I appreciate that when you raise capital, you're probably going to spend it on many different things. But you kind of want to elevate sort of what are the 1 or 2 areas that you're really going to invest in with this capital that's going to have disproportionate impact on the company. And I think this got a little bit diffuse. All right, closing out the deck, why is Moz uniquely positioned to win? Sort of 4 key takeaway points, a passionate community. Here's one of the missed opportunities. They do have a passionate community, 300,000 plus users. I wish they kind of expanded on that point and quantified that point, because it's one of the strengths of the company, rather than just having it be a summary point at the end. Technology leads, strong growth, unique culture, all true. I would have probably put in and reminded folks of the macro trends that are driving this business, which I think is one of the stronger points. And then lastly, their aspiration to be $1 billion company. So, all right, that's the SEOMoz deck. Let's talk about some of the key takeaways. All right, let's talk about some of the key takeaways from the SEOMoz deck, and I'm going to do positives and negatives here. So on the positive side, number 1 is position your company inside of a strong secular growth market or a strong secular shift. That's what they did in the macro trends section, talking about how, guys, it's completely illogical that all this money is going to paid and not to organic when organic is driving all the traffic. I aligned with that, and it makes you think that the company is at the front end of a big shift of spend towards organic and SEO optimization. Number two, the more clearly you can define your customer, the more believable your ROI and your growth story is. So they did a great job defining their customer by title and by proportion of customers by specific titles. Very unique, very believable, and it naturally made me think, I know those titles exist in millions of companies, so this company has tremendous potential and breadth. And thirdly, I would say, get your investor to nod their head throughout the deck. Get them to align. So I thought SEOMoz did a nice job positioning a number of just key takeaway points I think any rational human being would align with. And so I was nodding my head through the deck. And by the end, you want them nodding about the entire company. And so that starts by building up different slides that the investor aligns with. So lots of positives in the deck. Areas to improve upon. Number one, clearly explain what the company does. I did not leave this deck understanding specifically what the company does and what their software platform does. And so that was missing. I thought they did a good job on the macro, perhaps not a great job on the micro, which is what does the product do? And give some examples. And that was kind of all missing throughout the deck. I would say you also want to simplify. Simplify some of those noisy slides so that you can have one clear takeaway point. Sometimes more is not better. And so I think some of those slides could have been narrowed, honed, and landed with a stronger punch. And lastly, because I know this company, you would see in various points it talked about a community, hundreds of thousands of users, millions of visitors. There's real passion around this company. And so I would say if you have customer passion, quantify it for the investors so they can see it and they can know it and they can touch it. And this slide deck really didn't make that customer passion, that whole SEOMoz community and the passion they have tangible enough. And so I think there are missed opportunities to quantify customer passion. So overall, I thought some positives, some areas to work on, but very unique deck and a very unique entrepreneur and company. So we're grateful to cover it today. Once again, if you want to have your pitch deck either considered for publication or just for feedback on the side, we're happy to do that. So you can do that at volitioncapital.com. And also, if you want to be automatically updated on other episodes of Flash Feedback, please subscribe to this channel. Thanks for joining us again, and we appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you again next time.